I was asked a question a little while ago about how I approached the work when I've talked before with you guys about how when God first started calling me to him, he would wake me up at like 4:30 in the morning, and I'd go out to my backyard table and I would sit there and I would just journal and I would listen to him and I would chisel myself down into the heart and spirit, get into that posture. And I would sit there with him for hours, just listening to where he was moving me, how he was speaking to me, the things he was drawing my attention to. And so what she was asking was, how did I approach that morning work? Well, first of all, I told you that he would wake me up at about 4:30 in the morning. And he would do that because even though I had been in bed, I still had this idea that I needed to get on my computer and start working, or if the sun was up, that I needed to I don't know, there was just something that would happen internally with me that where I would think that I needed to be doing something or be active in my mind, which is kind of weird now that I think about that, because I was in bed. I couldn't do anything. Physically, I was incapable of doing anything. The best I could do was do whatever I needed to from my computer. But you can be working and not actually physically working, right? You can be working inside of yourself and treating yourself like a machine, even in self-loathing, because you're incapable of being physically productive. In any event, that was what God did with me. At 4:30 in the morning, it was still dark. It was still outside. As the longer I sat there, I would hear the world just come alive, right? Listen to the world wake up, the little birds, the light, the perking up of the plants. But at 4:30 in the morning, it was super still, and I would just sit there with him, and it was just me and him. No distractions, no sounds of cars opening and slamming and, all of that stuff. Just me and him. And he was doing something. He was teaching me how to just be with him, what that felt like, how to chisel into the heart and spirit. And so I would sit and I would continuously, morning after morning, focus on getting into the heart and spirit. What's blocking me from getting there? Okay, I'm feeling some fear. I need to write a list of the things that I'm fearing and anything that I'm not capable of giving to him, that I just keep thinking about and ruminating over and worrying about. That's my work right now. And then I would do my inner child work on that. And I would chisel down into the heart and spirit. And I'd know when I got there. And I'd know when I received relief from the inner child's work. But I also knew the difference between relief that came from me doing my personal accountability work versus peace that comes from God's healing. You hear the difference? Relief is not peace. You can have relief even from instant gratification, but you will not have peace until you actually return to God and receive his building and ministry. Then he will restore you with peace, and he will cast out any spirit that is inside of you, and he will seal up that chink in your armor. That's what I would do day after day. And then I would do the work and I'd be restored to him, and he'd start drawing my attention to certain things. He might present a situation between my dogs and speak through that. He might present a situation in nature, but he would begin to speak to me through parable, the way that God speaks. He'll draw your attention to something. Jeremiah, what do you see? I see two baskets of figs. One basket has really good figs and the other has really bad figs. He most definitely does that. So anyone thinking that that's some woo-woo thing that I'm making up, read your Bible. He speaks through parable. You will hear him when you're listening, but you need to be able to perceive all of the different ways that he's speaking and attune yourself to him in heart and spirit. You can't contrive it in your flesh. That's what I would do. I would sit with him for hours, and he would continually talk with me. And it was the best thing ever. And he still does it. He still does that. But we have to do our work to get into the heart and spirit. We have to do our work to perceive the different ways that he is speaking, as Elihu said to Job in Job 33. So to answer the question, how did I approach morning work? I mean, the same way that I approach afternoon work and nighttime work, but there's something special about morning work because you're waking up and you're immediately getting into that posture. And so the rest of your day is going to be a lot different. And one of the troubles that I have when I'm working with people is that people act like they don't have time to do this. They don't have time in the morning because they've succumbed to the world, and the world dictates their every move and how they're living their life. And they've allowed it. And they're afraid. They don't think that they can separate. They don't think that they can take that time with God, because then they're going to be rushed. I want to encourage you to pray about that, because you need to be brought into a position where you know your God, and that whatever his will is, he will make a way for that to happen. And he will make a way so that you're not exhausted because you got up an hour earlier, and you're not having to be preoccupied with the next thing and the next thing. But that your priority all day long becomes living in him, becomes attuning yourself to him, listening to him. So to answer the question, you got to start with where you're at. You got to start with what you're feeling in the morning. At that time, when he first started drawing me to him, I believe I had a lot of spirits that needed to be cast out. A lot. So he was calling me in constantly to working on idolatry and fear and control. A lot with idolatry, because all of that is idolatry, right? Fear is coming from idolatry. And I haven't had a person yet contact me who did not have a spirit of fear. So everyone's going to start with that. Everyone's going to need to address what's going on inside of them. What are they afraid of? What's coming up for them? Start with where you are when you wake up in the morning. What are the first things that are on your heart that are of concern? And if you start there, you will eliminate being compelled all day long. Eliminate it or greatly reduce it so that now you can observe where are you being compelled and understand where that spirit of fear is attacking you. By the way, if that's your situation, you need to fast. You need to fast and you need to return to him. So your purpose is to chisel down into the heart and spirit. You need to acknowledge and identify what you're feeling. You need to discipline your flesh, sing your God song, do deep breathing, but you need to get comfortable with what it feels like to live in the heart and spirit, because eventually you should be living there all the time. And you are capable of living there all the time. It is possible. And it is the will of God for you to live in the heart and spirit all the time. He would never tell you to live in your physical flesh. Chisel down, get into the heart and spirit, dialogue with him, listen to him, pay attention to the ways that he's talking with you through parable. And the awesome thing that you're going to find is that the very thing that you end up working on in inner child work, and you feel that relief, and now you're going for peace, right? Now you're going to him and saying, Lord, have I pleased you? Have I done this work? Please move me. Where else are you taking me? He's going to draw your attention to something. He's going to draw your attention to something in your environment, some sort of parable, a memory, a dream, and he's going to start speaking to you through that. And as he speaks to you through that, you're going to know that he is in this with you. You cannot deny when you're doing this work and then God speaks through something like that and builds you on the very thing that you're dealing with. I mean, it's just really, that interaction with him is miraculous. You cannot make it up. I hope that helps to answer that question. Thank you for listening. God bless you, and I'll see you in the next video.